life?
Yes, I'm driving to the site, surely. Luckily, I have a car and I can drive to the sites. The transportation actually works till the end of till the beginning of the curfew. We have trams, trolleybuses, buses. Their quantity became less, surely, but they work. What can I say about daily life? We can freely walk on the streets, surely, and about work, I'm afraid lots of people have lost their jobs already because, uh, for example, we've lost connection with Kherson region, we've lost connection with some other regions, and people whose job depended on that connection surely lost it. Some people just moved away abroad, some people moved to Western Ukraine, and I'm sure it somehow influenced the whole economy situation in the city. I suppose that people who were outsourcers for IT sphere, they still have their work, and I think it somehow saves Ukrainian economy in that conditions, because the source of their income is abroad, not in Ukraine. It can help now, but the situation may change quite swiftly.
Okay, Mykhaylo, we'll come back to you. There's going to be a lot of time in this webinar for questions. So I'd like to turn now. I've got a lot of my questions myself, but I also want to give our participants a chance after both of you speak. So I'm going to turn now to Oleksiy Syvak. I just have a personal story to tell everybody. Oleksiy is a contractor for USAGM. He works directly for my office, and his public affairs strategic communications firm does a lot of our training internationally for us, and he does an excellent job. So Oleksiy was in Washington having lunch with me on February the 22nd with his wife, Oksana, who is a doctor at the Ministry of Health. And I urged him and Oksana to stay in DC. I said they had a place to stay at my house anytime they wanted. But he and Oksana said no, they were going to go back and they would do whatever they could do to save Ukraine. So this is the kind of, people who had options, and Oleksiy and Oksana had them. They went back to their home country, and he's outside of Kiev. So Oleksiy, could you tell us what's happened to you since you returned to Kiev on February the 24th?
Thank you, John. Yes, exactly. We have returned to Kiev on the February 24th at about 2 a.m. and at 5 p.m. we woke up because of the sound of bombing. And I should tell you that first, to understand how we are here, you should understand probably how the war is started. And it is not started in your laptops. It is not started on TV. It is started in your backyard, because for some reason it may happen that your backyard, where you have your cup of coffee, may become a graveyard for your grandparents that you use to bury them, because you have no other option to move it outside. And this is not like a allegory. It's a real story of my colleagues from my company that happened just a week ago. And this is the general concept of the war. The war starts immediately, and it becomes the whole of your life. So I'm staying in Kiev. It's not the city limit. It's just on the outskirts of Kiev. We hear the war, we smell the war, and we know what it's like. And at this point, I should say that probably the half of the population of Kiev left. The whole country actually is on the move. We have like about 10 million people moved from the places where they lived. About 3 million people left the country outside the country, and we are now dealing with new reality. We have managed to help all our employees to find to a safer place, either in the western part of Ukraine or outside Ukraine, so that we are able to perform our activities, what we do on the daily basis. We have regular communication with them. We know that all are fine, so we continue to do what we do.
Thank you, Oleksiy. Oleksiy, could you just tell us before we turn to questions? We've already got some in the chat box, but I'd like to know what your daily life is like. Do you go out of your house? What's the food situation? How does Oksana get to the hospital?
Mm-hmm. See, my wife, as you have mentioned, is a medical doctor, so she is going to her work every day on regularly, because they have not just the patients they had previously, but they have also wounded people from the front lines. As Kiev became a front line at this moment, as of me and as a family, we are trying to be everywhere at the same time. So we know that people of Ukraine are facing same problems. So we're trying to help each other. We spend much time helping to territorial defense, to medical staff, to people that are organizing life. So we do what we have to do in order to make our life safer, and in order to help other people as well. But also because of we have quite good internet connection, and we are able to work decently. So we perform our activities of our work as well. So we understand that the future we built with our input that we provide now.
Thank you, Oleksiy. I know this is a very popular event, and I'm really going to go straight to questions. And after we've had some questions, I will talk about USAGM's efforts to reach people in Ukraine and Russia, and some of the things that are happening on the broadcasting front and on the digital space. But first, I will say that your comment about the internet is amazing. The internet with both of you and Mykhaylo is quite substantial. So this is from Brian Carlson. Brian is a former public diplomacy official, very well known in the United States, and this goes to Mykhaylo. Brian is asking, what type of information are you getting, Mykhaylo? Are you getting BBC? Are you getting CNN? Are you getting American networks? Are you getting Russian networks? What's your information environment, and how are you getting your news and information? And how are the other people in Odessa getting it?
Well, I would say that I'm trying to work with primary sources, so it's either official reporting of what's happening on scene. And as far as I'm Odessa reporter right now, I'm trying to gather all the official reporting from local authorities, from local administration, from local military. So that's first one. The second one, which is very extremely, I would say, popular in Odessa region and in Ukraine in whole, is Telegram channels, which is used by ordinary people just to gather and to spread information about what they have seen with their own eyes. It's always an issue about whether it's propaganda, whether it's fake, or it's real video or photo, or just words of a person who saw it. But I have some Telegram channels which I know check information before publishing it. Some of them even connected with Odessa journalists right before the war to show that they are open to communication and that they want to fact check their information before publishing. It was kind of very useful cooperation with them. I try to monitor what major media outlets report about war in Ukraine, surely, but I have to say that it's quite convenient for me. My wife is a news editor, so if anything happens in Ukraine or in the world with Ukrainian war, she just helps me in that with that information, because the quantity of facts, of numbers, and of propaganda, of some official reporting from Ukrainian side is huge. It's very hard to gather it, to analyze that, and to somehow find time to actually do your job. So
Yeah,
I'm trying to.
Could I also just ask you about this unified channel that the government of Ukraine, or that the Ukrainian media itself has put together? If you could just mention that and explain how it's working.
Yes, I'm afraid it's a question more to Oleksiy, because I really don't watch lots of TV. But as far as I understand the scheme, the major media outlets decided to make one content stream, which they fulfill with common powers. It's major TV channels, some radio TV stations, and that's all. As far as I see, some TV channels are not very happy. Smaller TV channels are not very happy with that decision, but I don't know whether they will be able to influence this decision, as far as government in that conditions is interested in unifying the information as far as possible. So somehow it will change. But as Oleksiy said, no one tells people what to read or what to watch. You can use whatever media outlet you want. But
Right.
surely this one unified stream will be very popular, because it's major TV outlets.
Right. Oleksiy, let me ask you the same question. Where are you getting your news from on a day-to-day basis? What are your main sources of information?
If you let me, I would rephrase the question to what information we're looking for to feel comfortable and to that we get the information we need. So first, it's news, of course. So as Mykhaylo mentioned, some people are watching TV and they get their information from there. But I can tell you also that many of us are using alternative sources of information, like Telegram groups, like Viber groups, because they provide not only with updated information about what is happening outside their homes, but also the analytics, but also the notifications about the missile attacks, about air attacks. So we are staying online 24/7. Sometimes, like in the smaller cities, you don't have these sirens loud. So the only way for you to understand that there is a threat, if you get this information through your smartphone. So, and in my company and in the group of the people that I'm talking to, we do heavily use these online channels to get information, to get analytics, to get predictions, and to understand where we are.
Thank you, Oleksiy. We've just got a ton of questions. I'm just going to get right to them. Mykhaylo, this is from Marvin Kalb. If you don't know who Marvin Kalb is, everybody in this audience does, one of the great journalists and a friend of mine. And Marvin asks, how do you envision this war ending and when? That's to you, Mykhaylo, and then you to Oleksiy.
It's a very complicated question. At first, I thought that Putin wants to to take Kiev and to put his own course of the country to make it pro-Russian. Then, as far as I understood, he got that it won't be so easy as he thought, and now that's my just prediction that he wants to take the piece of Ukraine to make it possible to go to Crimea via land, and I'm afraid that now he's going to fortify what he already captured and to save it for him. I don't know, will it be possible? Because as far we remember, Mariupol is still holding, and other cities in Donbas are still holding, and they are not going to surrender and to leave. So it will be quite hard for him, but that could be the scenario that he wants. As I envision the ending of this war, it's I'm sorry, the air raid siren is right. It's actually on, and I thought I heard some explosions in the air. But anyway, it's really hard to know. It depends on Ukrainian army. It depends on Ukrainian politicians who go to talk. It depends on Western partners, on NATO, which is not trying to actively take part actually in that war. So it's really hard to predict. I'm afraid Putin has a lot of variants, a few variants at least, which he wants to use. I mean, if he understands that he won't take this land corridor to Crimea, what will he do? Will he frighten population with missiles, with bombing, to make it surrender, or will he just capture a piece of Ukraine and will turn it into something like battleground which won't stop for at least a few years if he has resources? He can try to turn us into European Syria, for example, but in Europe. So it's really hard to predict. I'm afraid not everybody was awaiting that Ukrainian army will stand so hard, and it changed a lot of forecasts which existed before.
Oleksiy, how is this war going to end and when?
Okay, to answer this question, I would like to start with several comments that we should bear in mind to understand the future of this war and to understand the future of the world, actually. First, what I want to bring attention to is the fact that Ukrainians proved to be a strong nation. And I believe for many people in the West, that was a great surprise. Because from my information, there were predictions that the war will end in 24 or 48 hours. And there will be new world where there is no place for free Ukraine. But Ukrainians proved to be strong, and we demonstrated our strength. But we should admit the fact that with all our strength, and with all our spirit, we cannot stop bombing. So we should understand that even if we see a lot of heroism on the fronts, there will be weapons. There should be some help from outside Ukraine that we can use to fight the largest terrorist in the world. So from my point of view, we will face the change both in Ukraine and in the world. The change in Ukraine will come from the severe fighting in the fronts, and as our history proved, Ukrainians are very good at quick response. Remember our several revolutions in the past, we demonstrated how quick we can gather in the streets, in the squares, and to demonstrate our common will. But we will learn how to become a nation that can build our future. And this is what we think about even now. The war will not end soon, because as we see, Putin is demonstrating that he is going to come till the very end. I mean, with the recent bombing of Kiev, Kharkiv, Mariupol, Melitopol, and some other larger cities, he's making the severe damages to non-military objects like maternity hospitals, like schools, like yesterday the big, huge shopping mall, which has no sense to destroy, but of course it's a great loss for the country economically. So.
Oleksiy, I've got so many more questions. I'm gonna hold you there.
Okay.
And they're just, they're pouring in here, so I want to get to some of them. This is for Mykhaylo, and it sort of the same question from a couple of people, which is, have you been able to, the Russian involvement, essentially what Brian Carlson asked, have you had a chance to speak to any captured or injured Russians? And also, has anyone been able to talk to the Russian supporters inside Ukraine? So I'll send that over to you, Mykhaylo.
Well, there was a press conference in Odessa with captured Russian soldiers, but unfortunately not all journalists were invited. I wasn't, and I didn't have that possibility. And frankly speaking, I cannot actually, I'm not sure that it's a very useful thing to talk to them, because they are prisoners of war and they will say whatever we want to hear. They are saying that they were on trainings. They are saying that they are not, didn't know what they're doing. Lies. If we are speaking about Russian supporters or ex-Russian supporters, I got a good acquaintance who was a who is a member of city council in Odessa, and who was a member, and who is still, as I know, is a member of pro-Russian party, Opposition Life, for Opposition Bloc for Life, and he changed his mind absolutely just in a few days of war. He wasn't actually heavily pro-Russian or pro-Putin. He was just like, it was a party he chose a lot of years ago. But anyway, after a few days of war, after what was Russians doing, and actually the crucial thing for him was when Putin decided to give prison to people who are denying what they're doing. That was a crucial point for him, when he understood that the political and social system in Russia is not healthy, is not rational, is not acceptable, as he said. So that was a good example. And surely all the bombings, all the casualties among civil society, among army, the whole decision of Putin to fight, to start a full-scale invasion, I suppose somehow changed minds of population. For example, in Odessa, yesterday or the day before yesterday, the local authorities presented a vox pop, and I can't recall the exact numbers, but Odessa at some point was the most pro-Russian city in Ukraine, and now the vast majority of people are saying that they are for Ukraine in that conflict, that Russia is responsible for that conflict, that they are aggressors and occupants. So yes, something has changed. Yeah,
you should unmute yourself.
Mute. Mm-hmm.
Sorry about that. Is there any indication, is there any news coming out of Russia? Are Ukrainians getting any news from Russia? I guess that's the question that's being asked by Joel Fishman, who's the president of the Public Diplomacy Association of America.
Oh, yes, I do. I read Russian news. Surely, I mean, I want to understand what's going on there.
What is going
Uh,
on there?
uh, well, if we are speaking about war, the things are becoming more and more absurd. I mean, lots of people were arrested because of these peaceful rallies. Uh, Lots of people still try to do some rallies against war. And on the one hand, on the other hand, the repression mechanism is becoming more and more strict. Even the words Russian authorities use to explain what's going on is disgusting. For example, a press secretary of Putin, Dmitry Peskov, said he was asked about people are leaving the country because of what you're doing or something like that, and he said, "Okay, the country will get cleaner without him." It sounded like the words he's using were cynical on the one hand and dangerous on the other hand. He's speaking about cleaning the country, which for any rational man in civilized society is just something which cannot be actually even thought about. So yeah,
So you
things
are
are bad.
getting, and Ukrainians are learning about what's going on inside Russia to some extent. Oleksiy, I'd like to turn to you real quickly. There's a question here about humanitarian aid. There's obviously a lot of humanitarian aid. A lot of Americans, every time you open up your browser and turn to Amazon, you're donating to Ukraine. What is happening to all of this aid? Is it getting to the people? Or can you see any effects of this kind of thing?
I should say that I really positively surprised by the fact that the whole world is helping Ukraine in a way that I never expected. Like I can give you the example of Airbnb. Some people are booking apartments in Ukraine and don't even plan to stay there because they want this money to come for the owners of these apartments and to be used for their own needs. So we know that much of the help is gathered by the non-governmental organizations, and we have this stuff coming to the western part of Ukraine and then distributed among those in need and also among Ukrainian military. But also we have so many personal parcels, personal support that are coming from all over the world, and we do appreciate this help. And if you let me just briefly comment on the information that we can get from Russia, sure. I would divide it into two parts. First, we have this official channels of information that we listen to, that we watch, and which we cannot really understand because they are actually mirroring the situation. So if there was a bombing of a place, Russians says, okay, that's what Ukrainians did to their own people, and this is what I don't really understand and I cannot understand. But we also have relatives, we have acquaintances in Russia, and we get this information from them. And what I should say that they still believe, most of them still believe that the war against Ukraine is a good thing. The war itself is a good thing to as a diplomatic meaning. So that surprised me a lot because I personally don't understand how the war could be the meaning of solving issues. And I personally don't see any possible changes in Russia in the nearest future.
Thank you, Oleksiy. I think your observations are borne out by some research that USAGM conducted in Russia shortly after the invasion, when there was a high number of people who support Putin and support the war. We were at USAGM quite surprised by that. Again, it's a very older demographic in Russia. A lot of those people, 30% of people in Russia are over 65. And a lot of those people lived through a very dire times in the 1990s after the fall of the wall. So we could analyze that. We'll do another program on that. But I think all of us are surprised at the degree of Putin's apparent support. Now, who knows how long that will last. I'm going to go to some another question here, which is from let me see, Greta Morris. Greta is my co-chair on the programs committee. She's got actually two questions. So many journalists have come to Ukraine to cover the war. Do you have much interaction with other journalists, and are you sharing information? I think I'll take that first to Mykhaylo. Are you working with foreign journalists, Mykhaylo? Obviously,
yeah, lots of foreign journalists came into Ukraine, and especially including Odessa for the first time in many years, actually. Lots of from all over the world: United Kingdom, United States, France, Italy, Germany, lots of them. Surely we communicate. It's kind of working process, and we exchange information in case we can exchange this information. I try to help them with contacts on the ground if it's possible, and if I have time for that. Yeah, but so the short answer is yes, we are communicating, and we are helping each other.
Okay.
Let me also say yes, because part of our work as a company, we help foreign journalists to ease what they do in Ukraine, to find the right contacts, to find the right information, to understand from their own perspective what is happening here. And I can tell you that they appreciate our help.
Just, I'm going to follow up on my own, because this is a question that I had for both of you, and we can start with you, Oleksiy. What do Ukrainian journalists need from the West? Do they need protective gear? Do they need VPNs? Do they need equipment? What do they need? I'm going to ask both of you this question. So go ahead, Oleksiy.
You see, when we are talking about Ukrainian journalists, we speak about the people who stay in various locations, and in some locations you do have these devices in order to perform better. But what is general for all of us, for all those who work here in Ukraine, is the opportunity, is the ability to for a quick access to the information, because the modern world is about having information quickly, responding quickly, and spreading the information quickly. So this is, I believe, what is the most important.
Go ahead, Mykhaylo. What do you think? What do journalists need? What do they need to cover the story, to get the story out? Obviously, there's some American journalists, and they've got the backing of major institutions, and already a number of them have died. But what do journalists, Ukrainian journalists, need?
Well, it's a very hard question. I thought about it, and surely we can speak about some material things like flak vests or helmets, which can be very good for use in a battle zone, in combat zone. And as far as I know, there were some problems with providing journalists with such things, especially freelancers, because big media outlets out of Ukraine give such flak vests to their personnel. If we're speaking about freelancers, it's a problem. As far as I know, Institute of Mass Information is helping journalists in such cases, but it can never be too more. But as for me, the most important thing for journalists to have is motivation and belief that what they report is needed, and they need to understand that they can change something with their reporting. And that is why I suppose the best help for them will be communicating and cooperating of Ukrainian journalists with journalists around the world to exchange information and to show that if even the smallest website in Odessa or in Mykolaiv, which is now a real battleground, and there are not so many websites. There are some good, decent websites, but not so many actually, not so many journalists who want to actively report. But if these journalists from the smallest website will know that, knows that his information will be used in big media newsfeed, that he can report and be sure that he's doing important thing, I suppose the journalists will work better and will be motivated better to not to get lost in this informational chaos.
I'll just interject here. As I think the audience knows, USAGM, there's a $25 million supplemental that I think Congress has already passed for USAGM. And our employees have been asked to come up with ideas. And one of the ideas that my office has put forward is that we support local journalists, both in country and those who have been displaced, with reporting grants, with opportunities to interact with the Voice of America and Radio Free Europe, because we agree that we can't let this war devastate the information battlefield, so to speak, so that no one's covering it, and we know they need our support. So hopefully we'll get some approval for that. I can't say we will, but that was one of our ideas, addressing this whole issue of helping local journalists to get the story out, to understand that their value, and to make sure that people stay on the ground. Oleksiy, do you have anything to add on that?
Yes, I would like to add that some comments about the perspective, what Ukrainian society may need from the journalists who work here and who share the information about what is happening in Ukraine. And I believe what the most important thing for all the journalists is to understand that it's not about the war here in Ukraine only. It's about a new senses of democracy that are developing in Ukraine now. We face the change of the country. We face the change of the world, and we want this information to be spread all over the world. That Ukraine is part of the Western civilization. It's always have been, and so we want all politicians, all decision makers to understand that it's not about Ukraine that deserve to be a part of European Union or deserve to be a member of NATO. It's always was part of Western civilization, but now it's so obvious that we all accept it. So with this understanding, I believe we can come to the conclusion that helping Ukraine is not the helping the other country, is helping yourself, is helping your values, is helping what you believe in, is helping the civilized world in general, and preserving it from the terrorist states like Russia.
I think, Oleksiy, you answered this question, which was Michael Feldman's, and his question was, what message would you give to other European countries like Sweden and Finland, as well as US allies in the Pacific, based on your experience? And I think your message, you've very much crystallized it, which is Ukraine is at the forefront of democracy, and this is a major problem, not just for Ukraine or Russia, but for the world. I think that's what the question is. Before I go on, I just wanted to read Marvin Kalb's note that he just posted in the chat, saying, please tell Oleksiy and Mykhaylo that their efforts are invaluable and deeply appreciated. And that is from a man who is a legend in journalism in the United States and has covered virtually everything. So I know when Marvin says something like that, he's not a man who is very flippant and is well-meaning from all of us. I think I've come to my questions. I'd like to maybe have, if there's any more questions, I'll have some more, but I did want to quickly interject here because I'm now going to put on my USAGM hat because as a public diplomacy group, I wanted to just review some of the things that are happening at the U.S. Agency for Global Media. And it's been, it's been an incredible effort by our people, particularly the Radio Free Europe people and the VOA reporters covering Ukraine and Russia. We had asked a VOA reporter to attend our session. He unfortunately could not make it because he was en route from Poland to Ukraine. We don't have him, but there are VOA reporters inside Ukraine. There's VOA reporters in Poland. Of course, just a couple of statistics for you. The current time, which is Radio Free Europe, VOA joint 24/7 television network in Russian, saw a 146% increase at the beginning of this war. The figures are phenomenal. Everything from 50%, everything is up, literally digital, social media, views, up 50 to 150% in almost all cases. So what we have at USAGM, we have Current Time, the Russian language network. We have Ukrainian, Voice of America, and Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty. We are now putting that into a stream on satellite. So that will launch shortly. It will be a satellite stream devoted to Ukrainian content. In terms of trying to get into Russia, people probably just know Facebook was just kicked off. It's been tough getting into Russia, but we're using Telegram, we're using the social media. We actually have one Russian who is downloading our content from inside Russia. Let's hope he doesn't get caught. We're also placing content in Russian and in Ukraine to diaspora audiences. So with the flight of Ukrainians, we're looking at Poland, Hungary, adding new affiliates where they can listen to what's going on in their own language. We're also targeting diasporas Russian diasporas in Armenia, in Turkey. If you read the New York Times story yesterday, front page of the New York Times was young people are leaving Russia as fast as they can get out of there. And many of them are going to these surrounding countries. And we aim to try to reach them in Russian and in Ukrainian when they can. We've also seen an increase on our use of VPNs to try to get around censorship, to try to get around the normal getting tracked. All of our websites, including Radio Free Europe's, has a VPN. It says, right, basically jump on it and you can download a VPN right from the site. Radio Free Europe has just announced it's going to be opening bureaus in Latvia, Latvia and Lithuania. So that's going to be great. VOA has opened a bureau. They were going to open a bureau in Kiev, but that's now stopped. Again, I think I mentioned 25 million supposedly headed our way for Ukraine. And so we are looking for all kinds of things. Oh, before I forget, they're also examining shortwave. The BBC has gone into Russia on shortwave. Again, it's not a shortwave population in Russia. We have surveys showing only 1% of the people listen. They tend to be older. But I think there's a feeling that, any way you can get in there is better than no way. So that is also under consideration. The BBC has already gone there in shortwave.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Yeah, sorry. Isn't it the same waves they used in Soviet times, the BBC and the Voice of America?
Exactly. So that's exactly right. It would be we have our own towers out of Germany, so we could reach into Russia and Ukraine. So that is one answer. We got a couple more questions really quickly here. One from Lynn Weil, who used to be the public affairs director at USAGM. And she says, oh, I'm sorry, she's just a comment here. Thank you for your timely and compelling discussion, for all that you're doing to bear witness to this heart-wrenching situation in Ukraine. And Ina, who is my colleague, Ina Dubinsky, she is talking about Russia demands that people stop resisting as a trade-off for their safety. I think both of you have indicated that's probably not going to happen anytime soon, that the resistance seems pretty strong. Let me just—
I would also, yeah, can I add,
ahead.
please? It's an important issue. Today there was a peaceful rally in Kherson, and the peaceful rally was shot, actually. They were going with banners, they were demanding for Russian occupants to leave the town, and they were hit with smoke grenades and then beaten with guns and shot. So yeah, I cannot imagine the situation after when the city of Kherson, after such actions from the Russian army or Russian police, will somehow accept them as an authority, a legal authority.
Yeah, let me just finish up with final question. We open with Brian Carlson. He's got another great question. Are the people of Ukraine aware of, number one, the support from the West, the sanctions that have been placed, or are they aware of what's happening in the West, and do they think more should happen? Oleksiy, let me go to you first.
Of course, information, we have access to information, and we have much information about the help from the West. Some people complain that we don't have enough. Some people thank, and including myself, that thank all of you for the help you have provided and continue to provide to all Ukrainians. And I should tell that with the situation we have now in Ukraine, we have more and more people who understand that it's not about how much help we can get from the West. It's about how much we can do by ourselves to protect our land, to respond, and to build our future.
Well, very well said, Oleksiy. I'd like to thank you. We've got like only 2 minutes left. I'd like to thank you for attending, Mykhaylo as well. Any last words from both of you?
Let me start first. I will be very short. So I can tell you that unlike in Ukraine, where we always hear about claims to unite the country, we are very, very much united in Ukraine. So we have, like a month ago, we had these, various parties, various views, but we are now united before the common threat. And I believe we will keep this unification, this unit after the war. But more than that, we are united with the whole world, and we are very thankful for all of you for your support and for how much attention you pay for what is happening here in Ukraine.
Thank you, Oleksiy. Mykhaylo, last words.
Yeah, it's hard to add something after that speech, but I just hope for victory in that war for Ukraine, and I hope that this victory will happen as soon as it's possible. And also, I would love to thank our armed forces and other forces that save Ukraine and its people from Russian aggression.
Okay, well, I think before everybody starts crying, because we all feel for you, I think we are at the end of the hour. Marcy, do you want to close it out for us? Our tech host, Marcy, I want to thank her. She's just been wonderful. She organized all of this. So thank you for coming, everybody, for participating. And thank you particularly to our speakers.
Thank you. And we look forward to seeing you all April 4th for our first Monday forum.
Right. Sorry,